So now the world is basically divided into two parts. One part is where people think that you can spend tokens to do everything, and then the other part where they are still sensible. They still think that we need humans to do the designing, and I think Apple was one of them. They have always been good at design. They haven't done that much good in AI, but they have always been good in design. Their mobiles, their hardware, their software have always been something that people look and inspire. So Apple just acquired this company Play, and I think this is something that is going to be embedded in Xcode, and it will be used for designing basically. And then Peter comes in and says that, hey, why do you need this company? Why would you want to like buy something to do the designing when AI can do the designing for you, when you can just maybe get million tokens from OpenAI and you can use that to do the designing? Well, Peter did that, Peter did that for his application, and he released this app, Android and iOS, right? And the kind of hate that he's getting, I don't know if he deserves it or not. I mean, probably let's say he does, right? So because like he is going on all of the platforms convincing all of the engineering teams that you can use tokens in the loop to do anything and everything that you want, and you basically end up making this slop. This is the application that he released, open source, of course. OpenClaw is themselves open source. OpenClaw is the run by OpenClaw Foundation. Now they get $1 million worth of tokens from OpenAI for free to spend basically. And I think if he comes into you online and goes on the YouTube and say that, hey, you little guy, you can literally spend $1,000 tomorrow, and then you can spend it on OpenAI tokens, and then you can be rich because you can develop this app that is going to make you a lot of money. I think probably a lot of people are convinced that you can use this tokens economy to build anything and everything for you. It is basically like, buying the problems out just by spending on the tokens. And I think what has actually happened is that OpenAI spent a lot of money on Peter. OpenAI spent a lot of money on OpenClaw. Knowingly, they knew that OpenClaw is probably not going to build out the best software out there. OpenClaw is not going to be something that they would probably want to acquire and then be part of chat.com or Codex. But they would want some company to be there out there spending millions of tokens so that they can go out and say that, hey, see, we are spending millions of tokens from OpenAI and this is what you are building, so that they can normalize millions of tokens, right? So that when somebody comes in, or maybe when there is a company who is building a plan to spend $100,000 a token on month on building something, they can be normalized, because there can be a guy who comes in and say that, hey, Peter spends $1 million in tokens. So I mean, that's what's happening. I think OpenAI is just using this guy for marketing $1 million a month, and that is not even the cash, that is just the tokens, right, that they pay Peter for. And then the second thing is, I think before this there wasn't a guy who was going to install a software on their mobile which was going to have access to everything, basically from WhatsApp to Telegram to your system to your company to all the data that you have. Because like, do you remember how people were concerned about the data, that you can't just do and expose this data to all the service providers? Well, I mean, now you have the OpenAI app that is literally on the Play Store and App Store, and then it is literally the app that has access to almost everything, because it kind of asks you to be like, hey, like, you can be successful if you just have this one app, but you just have to sell the data. I mean, it's of course open source project, right? It is not something that they have the access to your data. Of course, that's not the point. But at least now you get used to exposing all the data. Now you get used to running everything through agents, right? And OpenAI gets another platform where they can actually see that, hey, like we gave this $1 million of tokens to OpenAI, to this OpenClaw Foundation. Let's see what do they build, right? Let's see if their agent are used now by 100,000 Indians, 100,000 people from China, 100,000 people from different countries, and then let's see how do they use it. Let's see if they use it for development. Let's see if they use it to buy stuff. Let's see if they use it to maybe book tickets at the cheap price. Let's look at the data. Let's look at the agent's capability. Are they able to do the crawl or not, right? I'm not sure if OpenClaw and OpenAI currently have any kind of a contract, but if they do, it would probably make sense if they can somehow use this, to figure out that, hey, like in tomorrow, we just are going to add one thing to OpenClaw, which is going to be like, if you just say share your data to us, like we will help you build out the better application, and OpenAI might have all the data access now. OpenAI might be able to figure out what people are actually using the agents for, and they themselves don't have to be the bad guy. You know why bad guy? Because I mean, OpenClaw is literally something I honestly believe it can have extreme number of bugs that you can't even think of. By say extreme number of bugs, I'm not saying that it will have 100,000 bugs. No, it can just have 1 or 2 bugs, just one dependency that gets installed, which just maybe destroys the company's data or something. So it's just, you just have to be very careful with this thing, OpenClaw. So OpenAI never wanted to be associated with something where it can basically, like, you know, do bad things. But they still wanted these things to be normalized, which is spending millions of tokens and then figuring out how the agents get access to the system and then figure out how people use it. And I think Peter just kind of became the bait for it, right? Peter was the guy who was right there, and then he was going to advertise spending tokens. But then Peter he himself didn't realize this thing, that in order for you to have a startup, you need to figure out how to, what problem basically do you want to solve? Even today, I think most of people who do use OpenAI or the OpenClaw, they would use it through Telegram. They probably won't use it through this app. And the reason behind that is because the best interface that is ever there to talk to agents is actually the chat interface. And the first product that was released by OpenClaw was the best and maybe now the only product that actually people need. And people are moving on from OpenClaw now to Hermes agent, because Hermes agent is kind of now giving this image that we are the well-managed economy, we are well-managed open source project where you can come to us, and then we will probably make sure that there are no security vulnerabilities, and then we will just not end up giving you this shitty app which probably has a lot of bugs, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that, okay, yes, like Peter did have a chance to prove to the world that yes, you can use millions of dollars to build out a good, beautiful application, and then this would have been the best thing for OpenAI, that they can go out and say that, hey, now you just need to spend $1 million a year or $1 million a month on the tokens, and then you can be as successful as OpenClaw. But I think he literally failed. I think Peter literally failed to deliver on the value that OpenAI wanted him to deliver on, because if this was a success, then I think this would have been the best thing that has happened for OpenAI. They have got the application which is installed everywhere. They don't have to go out and convince people that, hey, there is this any privacy concerns, because like it is literally open source, right? So they never have to worry about it. They never have to worry about convincing you. They never have to worry about, you know, hey, like, you little guy, we will not use your data to train our models. But I mean, we literally do at the moment, but we won't. Okay, so that's the point basically. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that you need to figure out how to actually use tokens wisely. You shouldn't just be token maxing to figure out, you know, that hey, you just, you know, end up spending millions of dollars of tokens to just get roasted online, right? What you should be doing is you should be actually building out, like, first of all, like, if you're using OpenClaw, try to actually move on to Hermes agent, you know, because I think it's a time to move on, you know, it's a time to move on from the slop company to actually the company that is doing the good work. So first of all, try to go ahead and read about Hermes agent. It is much better. Before I used to use OpenClaw, but now I use Hermes agent, and try to just configure it with DeepSeek. Okay. Platform, get the platform key. Don't use it from OpenRouter, because from the platform key you can get the cached value as well, right? And let's say you just end up using Hermes agent as a co-founder, as a guy who just sits there with you, and then you talk to that guy to discuss your plan, to architect the plan. And that is how I actually use it, right? I architect the plan with the Hermes agent. I talk to Hermes agent that, hey, let's try to do the research on what kind of applications that are getting trendy on Product Hunt right now. It will crawl the internet for you, figures out that, hey, like, this is the applications that are now getting in trend, and then it is related to this category, and then we can do this research, and then maybe this content is getting good views, right? So it will remember everything for you, and then you can use that to actually build out a memory layer. Let's say you figure out what trends are successful, which trends are, like, you know, by the way, I'm talking about this Product Hunt. It's a good platform. You can basically see which which of these applications are actually becoming trendy. So you can ask Hermes agent to go and then periodically check product hunt to figure out which applications are becoming popular, maybe figure out the opportunity for you to build out something, and then you can use Hermes agent to build out a roadmap for you. Kind of, you have to be, of course, there, you have to talk, and then you can build out a bit of architecture plan, you can say. And then once that happens, Hermes agent can actually build out the GitHub issues for you, or whichever the project management tool you use, and then you can come back to Codex, Cloud Code, whatever the favorite tool that you use, and then actually develop the application. So it is never going to be just one thing, the one button that you press to figure out how to be successful. There is always going to be this hustle that will go on to figure out which thing that you actually want to build, and then figure out how limited time you have, and figure out that you want to deliver this MVP in 2 weeks, and then figure out that, okay, maybe you don't really need to develop everything at anything, just because now you can just focus on 1 or 2 things that really matters, that people that really love you for, and then try to deliver on that in the best way possible, rather than delivering on one thing, which is that, hey, letting the agent now do more long horizon tasks, trying to figure out how to build a good you can say the harness layer. These guys start spending millions of dollars of tokens to just build out the application that maybe nobody needs, right? And then this guy has the irony, of course, to go in and say that, hey, WhatsApp is the vibe coded stuff. Basically, I mean, how people should know that vibe coding just happened. I think it's a recent phenomena. People actually used to code before, there was a Erlang development language, right, that people used to code in with their hands to figure out how to send the millions and billions of messages, right? So this was never the case. And I think I was looking at one of his tweets where he basically says that this was the only way that this was supposed to happen, that we were supposed to release this application, and then we couldn't have done it better, and then nobody could have done it better. Nobody could have developed a better application than we did with the millions of dollars of tokens. And then basically what's happening is that now people are becoming convinced that if you can't do this through tokens, then maybe this is not possible. But people are not realizing this thing, that this is not the first time that we are actually doing the software development, bro. We have been doing software development for years and years and years, from decades and decades and decades. You have sent the men to moon in 1960s or 1970s, right? 1960s, right? Yeah. How about with what? Like, I think it was C language that was used, or assembly language. So people actually used to write down in C language, assembly language, to figure out how to build out this massive infrastructure. We built out this mobile infrastructure. We built out this networking infrastructure. We built out all the data centers. We built out the GPUs, CPUs, etc., etc., etc. We built out the beautiful programming languages, the platform itself that thing runs on, the operating system, the Linux, etc., etc., etc. And at the end of the day, we built out this massive thing so that AI and LLM can run on. At the end of the day, just to come to know that only thing that you can do are the things that you can do with the tokens. Well, that's not the case. Actually, you can code with the hand, you can code with the keyboard that you have. And one thing I would tell you is that this is basically you can say the signal for you to not do the token maxing. Try to actually go back to basics. Try to learn about the architecture. Try to learn about how to solve the good problems. Try to read the books. Try to actually go and then see how to go from 0 to 1. Try to go ahead and then try to read some of the business books. Try to figure out how to be minimalistic in nature, not to be maximalistic in nature, because only by figuring out the right problems to solve, only by figuring out how do you solve them in the best way possible by being lazy, is you can be successful. Because otherwise you can blame it on tokens, or you can blame it on community, or you can just blame it on anything and everything that you think, but the success is on you. So you rather try to be minimalistic, and you rather try to do something that's actually going to have a value. Otherwise you might get lost. All right, thank you. Oh, by the way, if you're watching me on YouTube, please subscribe, because I'm going to drop a course on harness engineering, and that's going to be the course, I think the only course that you need to figure out how these platforms works, like OpenClaw or Hermes or Codex or Cloud Code or OpenCode, all of it. Okay, we will talk about it. And do subscribe me, and I will send you probably the notification. And not me, of course, YouTube, right? I haven't set up any kind of a subscription right now. What I would do is I would just drop you my Twitter. If you like if you like my video, do subscribe, and then you can send me the message on Twitter, and then let's talk about it. All right, thank you.